Welcome. I'm Crimey Queen, and if you're joining us for the first time, it's the channel where we have fun with words and numbers, numerology to be precise. Now, when I say fun, this is the number we are dealing with. Fun equals 5, and we have been talking about 5 because this is 23, 2 plus 3 is 5, and we are looking at waters, which equals 5. Waters as the divine feminine. That's where we are feeling that there is a need. We are hearing, we are sensing the cry to come home, if you like, to be nursed, be loved, be nurtured. Okay, so we have been exploring Genesis, and in case you are new to this channel, we are a channel of numerology, and of course we are using or embarking on the scriptures, exploring Genesis, because we believe that this is the book, particularly the King James Version, that has really shaped a lot of our makeup. And we also believe that by exploring those scriptures, we'll be able to find the answers that are necessary to make the change in our life, or to make the necessary changes in our lives. So we have been looking at Genesis of chapter 1 and verse 1 to 4. We have explored those various verses, and we see that, of course, for one is where it really, each verse has seemed to hold the vibration or its characteristic in the scriptures. So we see that one, of course, is it entails everything: the creation of heaven and earth, the movement of number 2, of partnership and harmony and unity. And we see, of course, with 3, it says let there, meaning allow, meaning permit. And when you permit, of course, it's that germ, it's that number 3 vibration that's all over the place, that which we are. Okay. And we also have number 4, where um, prior to this, I sort of thought that 4 was, of course, it's stability, it's it's safety, it's security. We tend to feel that way with 4, but however, it also has it's also divisible by 2, and so because of that characteristic it holds, we also see that in the scriptures, that's where God created 2 suns. We put it suns, well, 2 great lights. And the 2 great lights, of course, one was for the day and one was for the night. And we saw there was division. And I think it's now going through that, I am seeing how important it is to pay attention to the number 4. Now, I have just seen why as well that it is so important to pay attention to the number 4, because according to our template, it not only is 4, 4 is not only 4 here, but it has the vibration of number 13, which forms a bee. I have been calling this the beehive, the business, the buttocks, the breast, the mouth, anywhere there is 2, and it comes under that 2 partnership of harmony, or it could also mean that it has the um, function or makeup for disharmony too, because disharmony would occur between 2 or more entities or factors. Okay, the other thing that I felt was very important to recognize with number 4, like I said, I would observe like birds, 4 birds, and there would be 3 that would seem like in sync, and then there would be another one that seemed distant. So it also seemed that that observation that I have made seemed to carry a connotation of leadership where that 4 is. And perhaps it's no wonder that it is said the stone that the builder refused has become the chief cornerstone, meaning that there would be one that, so that is really in sync with my observation of the birds. And so, yes, it really is important that we pay attention to the function and formation of 4. Another thing that I felt was important because according to this template, we see that, of course, 4 has that makeup hair, but it also has another 4-point hair, which I think that that is crucial to where we are going. That is crucial to the sacrifice template itself as our north, south, east, and west. So that's 4 points here. This is the news. I call it the news as well. This is NEWS. So, for instance, the news taps into every area of our lives. If you turn on the TV, it gives you the news from the north, the south, the east, and west. And in essence, it condenses its information that we can identify with it. So that is really crucial to see how 4 behaves. It is really essential that we do that, and it also has those two dimensions to it, a horizontal or vertical line. So I like when I do horizontal this way and I do one. It's okay. All right, you get the gist. Now, the other thing, yes, I felt was very, very important, and that's what I really want to explore. So, it's the God of Genesis, the God that we have been talking to, worshiping, and as our Maker, our Creator, we we have had this notion that that is the only one God that we had or we have. And perhaps we could say it's the only one God because that God actually really equals 17, the number 1 for heaven and the number 7 for earth, the dry earth that after doing his experiments, that he cast the dry land onto one side, which he called it earth. So it may have had another name before, but he decided to call it earth. And we could compare that scenario with when he called the day light or the darkness night, and the day he called it light. So these were names that he called, but when someone calls something, that doesn't mean they named it that. They called it, perhaps they called it by name. If someone calls you, they call you by your name. And that is the thing. There has been so much information that we have not taken into consideration. So whenever in the scriptures here, particularly in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, where it seems we get the same story with slightly varied flavors, we could say. When we get this, and when God called, we need to pay attention to that. He called that thing or whatever it is by that which it was already named. If it is said, and God named, there we see that Adam was the one who named everything from what we are told. So God didn't really name anything. He created man in his own image and likeness, which from what we have got is that it's as if he experimented and had a replica of what man was meant to be. What man, yeah, replicated man. We can say that because when Christ came and said, "Don't you know you are the light of the earth?" Whereas the first thing that God called, he called it again, not named it, he called it out of the waters or out of the darkness. He said, "Let there be light." He called, and later on we hear he called the darkness out of the light out of the darkness. He called the light out of the darkness. So when he said, "Let there be light," it's like having an affirmation and saying, "Well, yeah, I'm affirming this, but now I'm calling it out. I want this in my life. I want wealth in my life. I want health in my life. I want harmony in my life. Those things are already labeled, and then you call them forth. So that's what we have missed. In fact, I'm just going how I'm intuitively guided here, because this is what I pray for: enlightenment, to be able to see and understand. Because something was amiss before, something was not gelling in what I had learned before, hence why I have been revisiting. I call it the scene of the crime right now. Okay, I can hear some people say, "Oh, this is blasphemy," but of course, I think I am believing that God is a God of humor as well. I'm believing that because He's taken us onto these cycles of that number eight, and we are going round and round trying to break free to understanding who we are. Because as long as we in that cycle of number eight, we can't really see ourselves. It's as if we need to birth out of that cycle, which is really a circle, that we can have another perspective of ourselves. But that God is quite clever. So what I have understood so far, because I have looked at, as I say, the verse 4, and I have seen that there is the calling of the lights, and God divided, there's so much has been happening. Now I need to take my glasses to go over this, because on the fifth verse, this is the thing, this is the most juiciest thing that you're going to get, I hope. And God called the light day, and the darkness He called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Now that first day was Mother Eve. That first day, when I've done the numerical values, it equals 5. So let's see if I've got it on here. But it equals 5. I've done this. The other thing that God did in so basically, the fifth verse has the emblem of the waters, which is the divine feminine, all over it. It has it in that when we add day and light, which God called, not named, called, it is 5. And also when He called night and darkness, which is 4 and 1, that is also 5. So there God has exercised a degree of reverence, we would say, in that we can't say that He tried to change the name or change, or perhaps He couldn't, because what is just the way it is. All right. But on verse 4, when I did this, this is a depiction of Christ on the cross, my depiction of Christ on the cross. And then I noticed that we are talking about verse 4, meaning 4 points. Not the 5-pointed style like I've got here. It's not this one. It's 4 points, which 4 plus 5 equals 9, which takes us onto the spectrum of numerology 1 and 9. 1 to 9. Of course, if we add 1 plus 9, that would be 10, which is perfect. It equals the word perfect. So you are all of that. Now, what I am realizing here in these 4 points, as the picture of Christ on the cross, his 2 or 2 feet, sorry, his feet, they are nailed together. So that would denote that this is where, when it is said, and God called the light out of the darkness, it's as if the legs were open where the light could be seen, as in my drawing. This is delicious, trust me. So if this were the head, the arms, and the legs, In essence, God had called the light out of the darkness. This is where the light would be out of the darkness at this point here. Although I believe it's at every point, which I'm going to show you. But we could say at this point here, it would have been evident that this is how we see Christ on the cross. These two legs here are close together, and there are 4 points like I have just shown. Those 4 points are the exact depiction of God in operation in Genesis of chapter 1 and verse 4. This is where it is said, and God saw the light that it was good, meaning he saw it like this before. He saw the light like this, and then God divided the light from the darkness. So God divided the light. You've seen something good and then you mess around with it. You're a God of division. So where we have learned in the scriptures that Eve was the one who disobeyed God, it's God had put, it's like he put his blame on Eve in that sense of Adam. It's as if, and that would make sense because there was that seed of disobedience or experimental or whatever you want to put it, that seed was there to show or to carry out the big picture, we could say. So there we are. And God divided the light. So I'm doing my experiment. I'm doing God because my life path number is 17, like it spells of God. And so God created me. I must have something of Him on which to attach myself to. Emmett Fox. This is really just wonderful. Oh, Emmett Fox, I love you. Okay. In fact, I perhaps need to do that. Call Emmett Fox into being and give me more, insight. So God called the light out of the dark. This is it. Out of the dark, meaning it's out. He pushed it out. He pushed the light. There we are. Oh, I should have some sellotape. He pushed the light out of the dark. Right. Now, I just hope you... So, just imagine that this was done. And it came to the shape of a ball. It could come to the shape of a ball because the light is out. No light can enter because the light has been pushed. But it still is of some light, if you know what I mean, because it's what it is. So basically, it was the ocean. We could say the waters out of the waters. This is where God did all the waters out of the waters. So, of course, the stronger light he called it sun, day, and the lesser one, of course, which was night, which would be in the dark, he called night day, or darkness rather. And remember, darkness attaches to darkness because the light came out of the darkness. And then there was another division. So basically, and then there was another firmament, and he called the firmament out of the waters. That's another thing we need to pay attention to. In the 6th chapter, 6th verse. In the 6th verse, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Yes, so let there be, meaning let it come alive, or but basically the waters had everything. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. So there would be another. It's that we are like in a womb. We are like it's like we are in a womb. Now there's the other thing I am skipping ahead, is that when God called the life out of the waters, he called out that which had life, meaning there would have been some that did not have life in the waters too. Hence, this is the clear depiction of the feminine anatomy, where she passes the dead cells every month on her period. Okay, period. So here we are. I love this experimentation. I think God is quite proud of me here doing this. So call the waters out of the waters. And so we have this. This would be, and then it actually still turns to that 5-pointed star. Meaning it's still, that's perhaps the reason why God could not avoid the emblem of Eve in other waters in the 5th verse of Genesis. Okay, so we have that. That's one point that I felt was very important to make. The other thing that if we imagine this as well, like I say, all the division of the firmament would really give an impression, because it's as if there's the waters and there's a firmament. And even like we are not in water as per se now, but the emotions that we experience, the tears that we cry, all the oceans or whatever it is, we are still like in that environment. It's like a baby in a womb, yet still we know we are 70% water, but when a mother is with child, she still has the baby in that womb with water. And that's what we are learning here with the division of what God did. Okay, so God, whatever God did, it was with the resources that were already there. That's the point. That's the point. Now, yes, so God called the waters out of the waters. So we know about out and within. We've done this here. And so this is the point I really want to make. So we see about the 4 points here. This is 4 points. Now, this is where the perfection happened with the crucifixion. Because when we count or check from here, all this I had done intuitively, not realizing that I would get to this point of explanation or insight. So when we add all these numbers together, 1, 2, 3, 4, that comes to 10. Now that 10 is the number of man. 10 is the number of man that God created. That God, which that equals 4, the 13. The God of 13, that's what he created. The incubation of number 1 and 3, that which forms the bond hair. That God created man. Now that in itself, as it also depicts the word heaven, it depicts the word heaven, 10. Hell is also 10. Man is 10. And mirror is 10. I'm just saying. In fact, mirror, the word mirror actually is so appropriate here right now. Thank you, divine intelligence. Mirror is so appropriate now that would denote that God was creating a mirror image of Eve. Now we know Eve equals 5, but the mirror image or that God was creating 5 and 5 would be 10. Of course, we learned that it was the male aspect of Eve that God created first. So he might have created, again, it's a mirror image. It's no wonder that it would have to be the male or an upside down or, the opposite aspect to what Eve was meant to be. Okay, and so that is the or the vital information that for us to really grasp from that. But when it comes to number 5, of course, after God had done the 10, which is the perfect, he saw it was good, or he saw the light was good, which was 2. And then he divided the light. You've seen the light, which is 11. 1 and 1 is 2. You see it good, and then you divide it again. Meaning divide it, he would create 4 points to it. 4. So you divide, if there's already 2, then you create 2. We know about the sun, we know about the moon, and we know about the stars. But isn't it said that there is another sun, that they have discovered another sun in the cosmos? And we also know, biblically speaking, it's always about 2 sons. Always have been 2 sons. It's like Cain and Abel. They always, Cain and Abel. Abel. Abel is the same thing. The Cain, this is another thing we need to examine. The Cain is actually that rod, and the rod is Abel. The two opposites were the depiction of Moses with the rod and the snake, him and Pharaoh. That's another story. I'm just pointing this out so you can see the parallels. Okay. And so this is where, when we are in Christ, now Christ, the word Christ equals 5. And when we are in Christ, now this is why I say Christ came. Christ was the embodiment of Eve. Christ he came to nurture and to be a representation. It's like I come to represent my mother. My mother has been going through this, and what's happening? He's the wonderful son who's come to say, I need to understand what's going on. I am ready to do whatever it takes to put things right. And so when you accept Christ, which is 5, you become a new creature, which is the same path his mother. Is the same path his mother and Eve, as in the Bible with Adam, had taken, eaten of the fruit, digesting the essence of wisdom, taking it up to the bridge. The bridge is always taking you to some other point of destination. So there we are, the bridge, Mother Eve, taking you back to the sun, where you become illuminated. Okay, so basically, we are seeing from these teachings here that we come from the waters. This is where we are destined to. This is where, not destined, but we need to be realized. We need to understand this is where we are. We need to find our position here, created on the 6th day. We need to find our position here. This is our I, and the word I is also 8. And the word 8 for food is also 8. Eat or 8, which is digestible substance that helps you to be enlightened. And that's what the story has been about. We have been misguided on the story. Now back to the 4. This is what I need to really get this. So we know that God divided the lights after he saw it was good. After God saw that the lights were good, he divided them. Divided them. That's the God of separation. Not Eve. Not Eve. That's the God of separation. And he saw it was good. So after it was separated, of course, this is how. In the fourth verse, this is the fourth verse here. And Christ, or Jesus Christ, was the depiction of that, because the male, that God was showing, it's like the son of, is it to say the God, Christ also always referred the Son of Man, the Son of Man. He referred to himself as the Son of Man. But then there was this other reference where he said, I am no man. And of course, I have done presentations on that when Christ said, I am no man. And it seemed like he was saying, I am a woman or a womb, which is able to be both male female. And that was the gist I got. So basically, he was able to take on that depiction because he had no say on how he was being crucified here. He had no say. And this is where he said, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? The word Father equals for. Yes? Father. So this is 958216. This is 10, this is 25, and 6 is 31. 31. So he said, why hast thou forsaken me? But then, this God here is the God of that who seeks for that sacrifice. He's the God of cutting and experimenting and, adding and subtracting. That's why the word blessed, and it says, and we think that it means increase. Of course, it means increase in the sense that if I bless you, because bless is to be blessed. Blessed is past tense. It's like God, when it is said, and God blessed them, that was past tense, meaning they are not less anymore. They have also been given the resources to increase. And it says, increase, multiply, subdue, have dominion, replenish the earth. So all those tools were given, all those instruments were given after they were blessed. After they were blessed. Okay. Now, of course, after they were blessed, we see that this is what I am saying again. So this is one God. This is how that God had created man in his own image and likeness. So basically he said to Eve, Mother Eve, let us create man in our own image and likeness. But what did he do? He created man this way. But it didn't mean that again, we need to see this. He's a smart, I was going to say a crafty God. Because it was a copy. It's a copy. And then he created man in his own. He created man in his own image and likeness. This is him. Because he's about news. He's about north, south, east, and west. Whereas the feminine divine, or the divine feminine, I keep saying the feminine divine, it's okay, is about shining, about transparency, about wholeness, about just being, nurturing. She wants to be there. You can come and sit between her legs and she's receptive. but the other God. I leave you with this. I hope you understand the essence of this presentation, and please leave your likes, subscribe, and leave your comments and share, because this is how we do it. We share to actualizing self love. Stay blessed, stay bright, be filled, be ignited, because we are planting new seeds, and spill over with love. Namaste.